Today's guest conversation is with the head baseball coach at Rockwall High School in Rockwall, Texas, Mr. Barry Rose. Here's episode 51 of the Baseball Forward podcast. Barry Rose, man, it is so nice to see your face. How are you, my friend?
I'm great, Ross. I'm great. Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, you bet. I was thumbing through some pics on the old iPhone from about 2012, 13, 14-ish.
Yeah.
And I came across one when you and I went to dinner when we were out in Phoenix in that Connie Mack qualifier.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? And I saw it was a picture of a pink van. Do you remember that pink van that we saw?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh, those are good times. Those are good times. So Barry Rose, head coach at Rockwall. Last night, you guys played Longview. You said you won 12-1. You get in at midnight. What does spring break look like for Barry Rose as the head baseball coach at Rockwall High School right now?
Well, I guess technically it started last Friday. We played a district game and won. I gave him Saturday off, which is kind of rare. It's our first Saturday off since I think January 10th.
Wow.
And then I headed up to Missouri to watch Barrett play my oldest son.
Yes.
And then we came back. We practiced on Monday, district game yesterday. Got to the field probably about 1 o'clock. Got back about midnight. So long day. I gave him today off again. Hey, enjoy your spring break. Yep. One day.
Yep.
And then we'll practice tomorrow, and then district game Saturday. So.
And you know what? The good ones will be up at the field hitting. They'll be getting their work in, doing everything. I'm sure.
Those guys will hit on their own, man.
Dude, I've been wanting to get you on because you're my friend, and I love your opinions, and I think you're one of the best baseball guys I know, and truly love coaching with you. Truly admire and respect your baseball brain and the way you handle yourself on the field. But you have such a unique perspective, Barry, into the Baseball Forward audience. Talking with Barry Rose, the head baseball coach at Rockwall High School in Rockwall, Texas today. Barry he's been coaching high school baseball in Texas, coached some unbelievable teams, Frisco, Wakeland, Rockwall. And he has such a unique perspective because he's seen it at the highest level, but he's a dad and he's got two sons, Barrett and Mac. Shout out to the boys. They're both college baseball players. I mean, hey, I've got an 11 and a 10-year-old, Barry, and I look at you and I'm kind of like, okay, I need to kind of model my life after Barry. So that's, I want to get into this. You've got so much going on for yourself and what you do with your program and the established credibility. You've got two boys playing baseball. Do you ever just stop and say, whoa, what's going on here?
Yeah, I feel like I feel like we're kind of right in the middle of it right now. This is Barrett's 5th year and last year playing, and then he's going to go into coaching and and Mac is in his 2nd year, and and we're having a good year. So I feel like just kind of every once in a while, it's just kind of stop, slow down, and just kind of appreciate it and look. And some of these long car rides I'm having to Missouri and Nashville, you just kind of kick back a little bit and enjoy it.
Think about that. And Barrett's started at SFA, Stephen F. Austin, Division I school. He's at Division II, Missouri Rolla. Is that correct?
Missouri St. Louis.
Missouri St. Louis.
I'm for sure.
I always get those confused. So Missouri St. Louis, and Barrett is just a stud. Kid hits, and obviously Mac is in his sophomore year. Went to McLennan his first year, and he's at Vanderbilt. He's one of the Vandy boys. So what from a dad's perspective, not a coach's perspective, but from a dad's perspective, what's the most satisfying thing as you kind of observe your boys doing their thing right now?
I think the work ethic that they both have. I'm very proud of not just baseball, but they're both good students. Both like 4.6 GPAs in high school, both top 20% in their class. One of them, I'm not going to say which one. Probably everybody knows, but one of them's a little bit smarter than the other one. But both really, really just did a great job of taking care of their studies and everything. And then it just has set them up to be where they're at, now. So, the grades part, and we can go on and on about all this stuff, but the grades part really does, open up more doors and give you more opportunities. So start there, but then, the work ethic deal carrying on over into lifting and off-season routine and throwing routine and hitting every day. And, and it gets,
wow.
At a certain point, I don't know quite what age it clicked, somewhere in their early teens, but, it clicked where it wasn't me, saying, hey, let's go hit. It's them saying, hey, let's go hit. Or, when they start driving, they start going to hit on their own, and so just proud of that, man. And then just calling them now and listening to them, like, hey, what do y'all got today? They're like, hey, we got practice at so-and-so time, but they're going 3 hours earlier to hit,
Yeah.
So,
yep. Man, because the baseball forward audience, they're going to listen to this. Like you have what so many parents are like wanting, right? So they want to know what the formula is. I feel like I have a good idea why your boys are such good young men. They really are. And like the GPA, just put it this way, Barry is not a softie. He's a good dude. He's got a good heart, but he's not like this little soft, delicate flower guy on his kids. So I want to know this, like you and your wife, how were you guys super intentional raising your kids? Was the vision academics? Was what was the goal when you were raising your kids to have them turn out the way they are right now?
I don't think there was ever like we sit down and go, okay, these are going to be 2 Division I, Division II baseball players, and
yep.
This is what they're going to be. I think it was just kind of day to day how we deal with them. My wife she's a principal in high school. She was a college basketball player, and she's kind of like me on that end too. She didn't put up with a whole lot of stuff, but we really didn't have to ever get on them or anything like that. But
wow.
I think it's just kind of, we had them involved in all sports. I mean, they played, they both got to play like 1 or 2 seasons of soccer, which, frankly was a disaster. They're not built like soccer players, but yeah, they played basketball, they played football. Both of them played football in high school as well for 2 years. And, I think it's just a steady, a steady dose of them, being, doing the right thing every day and then enjoying every day. And I feel like we were always there. Sometimes my wife had to go with Mac and I was with Barrett, or we'd switch off, and, when we could both be there, we'd both be there. But, it's really just, there wasn't a whole lot of downtime. I'll tell you that, and I think a lot of young parents kind of figure that out at some point. You get through these parts of the year, like especially in the fall, they're playing football, whether it's youth football or on up to high school football, and then they're going to baseball, a couple fall baseball tournaments, and then we start basketball, and man, I remember like just not, maybe having like one night a week where we didn't have anything, and you're in it probably right now. Yeah. And the one night a week, you like sit down at the dinner table and everything's kind of normal, but that's like the only night. The other nights are, hey, who's grabbing some food on the way home, and just kind of pass each other and high five, and that's it.
Oh man, talking with Barry Rose on the Baseball Forward podcast, episode 51, by the way. Barry, gosh, there's another the dynamic, because I hear this all the time, and I've had plenty of people give me unsolicited advice on how to raise my boys and like coach them, don't coach them. You have done a masterful job from my perspective, and I get it, nothing's perfect, but you guys have done a masterful job. Like you specifically as a coach, very well-respected coach. Everybody in DFW knows you. Everybody knows you, and everybody loves you. But you handle your organization, you handle your team, and then you coach your boys. So I want you to talk a little bit on that dynamic. Were you able, because there's so many dads out there that don't know how to coach their kids, right? And from my perspective, you're always, for the most part, objective. Like you're objective with all your guys. You just are fair with the guys that you coach. So talk me through kind of being a coach of other boys along with your boys at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, before they got to high school, I was always that was there most of the time, at their games and stuff, and I was usually kind of like a assistant coach on the side. But and same thing in the summer, just being there, jumping in, throwing BP to all the guys, and then still being there for my boys. And when they get to high school, it's you really do, like, as a coach, like you do have to be objectionable, and and you got to treat them like they're just one of the players, which it's hard, man. It's difficult when they're in high school, and I was probably for sure harder on them than I was on the others.
Yeah.
And both boys a little bit different. Barrett, I could get on him, and he wouldn't say anything back. And he'd hold on to it for a little bit. Mac, get on him, and he's firing right back. He's finger pointing at me, and we had some great mound visits. I'm sure it was entertaining to some people in the stands.
Sure.
But 10 seconds later, he's fine. I'm fine. We're moving on. But man, I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. Being able to be there with them every day, and to watch them develop as players, and as fair as you can be. At some point they got to where it's like, hey, they've got to be on the field.
That's right.
And they've got to be in the middle of this deal, because they are good, and they deserve to be there. And you can't, just because I'm the coach, you can't hold that against them,
Yeah.
So that was cool to watch. And you can see the coaches, them being coaches' kids. You can see that come out. You see the leadership come out in them,
Yep.
which is really cool too.
What a compliment that is. And don't worry about the dog barking. What's the dog's name?
Yeah.
What's the dog's name?
I've got Oma and Ash. Yeah,
Oma and Ash. Hey,
yeah,
we're a first class joint. We allow dogs on the podcast.
Yeah.
Talking with Barry Rose on the Baseball Forward podcast today. I gotta know, man, because your boys were studs. Like, it was obvious, and I know, I don't want to name names or anything, but I know that there were some buttheads out there that were like, oh, it's Danny Ball, Barry and Danny Ball, and we're like, listen, his boys are playing division. Both of them were Division I baseball players. One of them's at Vanderbilt. Like, come on, they're as good as it gets. So I got to hear, did you run into any of that? Oh, Barry, you're just playing because they're your kids. Oh,
yeah,
gross.
Absolutely, man. I've got some emails saved up. They'll come out in a book one day.
I'll be buying it.
I'm like Dion. I keep receipts, man.
I love it.
Yeah, plenty of stories on that stuff, and that's what's really cool too. Like, when Matt got drafted, it's like you start thinking back to stuff, and you think back to, like, when he was a junior. I got another parent that's emailing that her kid should be catching, and blah blah blah, and just stuff like that, just crazy. And then with Barrett, they were two different players. I mean, Mac, from the time that he walked in, it was kind of like, okay, he's going to be in the lineup. Barrett, he started as a sophomore at Wakeland, then we moved over to Rockwall, so he had to kind of prove himself to guys again. Yep. And everything. And then but you look up, and now he's got 36 college home runs. Wow. He had one in high school. And
he had one in high school, and now he has 36 at the collegiate level.
Yeah, I like bringing this up. He had one home run in high school. And he's got 36 now in college. He's also leading Division II in doubles right now with 16. My wife just jumped on and said, "Let's
go, Barrett, leading in Division II in doubles right now."
She was actually he actually hit a home run the other day, and my wife was like, "I wish you would have hit a double." I'm like, no, we're not saying that.
Oh gosh, dude. Yeah. I know this, just being around him, the time that I was around him. Hard nose. I think the ultimate compliment you can give a baseball player, Barry, is he's a hard nosed dirtbag. He gets after it, and I would say that about both your boys. So, We talked a little bit offline earlier. We talked about this kind of a little bit. The sentiment was the generation is I'm air quoting it, kind of soft, and I think ultimately you're a product of the standard that the coaches hold. So I
Absolutely.
want to hear your guys, the teams that you coach, whether it's summer, whether it's your high school stuff. They're dirt bags. So talk to me a little bit about the standard that you hold your players to and what the expectation is.
Yeah, I think going back to when I took the Wakeland job, I'd heard like, hey, Frisco kids are soft, and
Yep.
you hear that stuff, and then kind of the same thing. Like when I got to Rockwall, like I think we had really good players, but some guys that needed to learn how to play hard, every day. And I think there's no magic sauce to it. There's no, like, hey, we're just going to do this, and all of a sudden we're going to be gritty and play hard and all that stuff. You can't put a shirt that says blue collar and become blue collar. It just doesn't work like that. It's day to day, man. And like for high school, for me, it starts, in the fall when they come in the first week. We're hitting the field day one, and we're rolling. And then it carries over into going to the weight room after school for an hour. And it's, we're in the weight room in August, and it's 100 and something degrees, and we're, guys are sweating, and we don't pick up a weight for 2 weeks, but we, push ups and pull ups and stuff like that. And you just kind of, I have old players that text me now, like, hey, you guys do the push up workout, and it's kind of famous, but it's, stuff like that. And I can go back and look like where we're at in the season now, and you go back and think back in the fall, that's where we started. And it carries over into just day to day on the field. Like, stuff like, hey, we don't make excuses. We don't give explanations. That's old Tony Dungy deal.
Yeah.
I
love it.
And, same, you mess up on the field, mess up in the classroom. It's like, hey, fix it, move on, let's go. So you don't kind of tolerate anything like that. And you just keep harping on no body language and just playing hard all the time. And eventually when you do it every single day, you look up and we're in the middle of the season like we are right now. And you've got a bunch of guys that are dirt bags, and they do play hard, but you can't just, I remember when I took this job, fall of 2018, and I looked up during our first batting practice, and, I'm coming from a program. I'd been there 9 years, been successful, and I'm going to a successful program. But I look up, and there's balls hit during BP, and there's, guys, it's 2 feet to my infielder's left, and he just kind of turns and looks at it, as the ball goes by. And I got a ball that goes in the gap, and I got an outfielder just kind of looks at it. And wow. I kind of like had a moment where I sit back and was like, what did I just do?
Yeah.
But then you start working, you start doing that every day. And then, you look up and you're in the 4th round, so just day to day, man, it's not there's no, like I said, there's no magic sauce. Summer ball, and I coached summer ball for a long time, and I coached with you. And I think the hard thing for me in summer ball, being a high school coach, is going from, I've got my guys 180 days in the year in high school. And then I go into summer ball, and in 2 weeks, I want them to play like my guys.
That's right.
Play. Yep. And so I think that's just you try and do it a little bit quicker, but you got guys coming from other programs. But, if you do it right, you just keep talking to them about it. And I think by the end of the summer, it does make a difference in how they play. And then you send them back to their high school programs, and they're a better version of themselves than when they came in.
I think that's a great thing to think about too. Talking with Barry Rose, Rockwall High School head baseball coach, on the Baseball Forward podcast today. Barry, Baseball Forward, what Jim and I are doing is Baseball Forward. Our MO is elevating the next generation, man. It's all about positivity. It's all about passing on this game to the next generation the way you do it, like, right? That's what this goal is. The reason why I want you on this podcast is I want our audience, if they don't know you, I want them to know you because you're doing it the right way. So when I say elevating the next generation, I think there's a lot of young coaches that are coming up that maybe struggle with their identity as a coach, and they don't know like what their path is, and they don't know how they should. You've been doing this for 27 years, man, and you have supreme confidence. There's no arrogance, but it's confidence. So how did you get so I want to say your identity is so clear to me at this point as a coach. What is your advice for the young guys coming up that maybe struggle and say, hey, I don't really know which way I need to be going?
Yeah. I think back, early coaching career. I think when you're young, you think you have stuff figured out,
Yep.
And you have no idea what you're doing. You may be a good baseball coach. You may be able to hit fungo, throw BP, and you may have energy and everything, but you don't know near as much as what you know, is what you need to know,
Yep. Yep.
So I think I go back and 2005 was my first time I went to the ABCA conference. One of my best friend from high school, his father-in-law is Jim Lawler that was the pitching coach at A&M, and Coach Lawler asked me and Chris and said, hey, you guys come up, y'all can sleep on the floor in the hotel room. And the first one was in Nashville, which is kind of crazy, but so the first ABC I went to was in Nashville, and we slept on the floor of his room for 3 nights.
Wow.
And going to, meetings, and I'd never been to anything like this before. I was like just in awe. And I was 31 years old at the time. I'd been a head coach for a few years, and like not only just the clinics during the day, but at night, Coach Lawler's talking about pitching in the room. And then I look up one night and I'm sitting in the corner, just kind of taking notes with a couple refreshments. And there's 5 Division I head coaches in the room with probably about 3,000 wins.
Wow.
And I'm just sitting over in the corner, just soaking it in. So, I look up now and I've been going to ABCA. I think I'm a 21 or 22 year member, something like that.
Wow.
And, I can go back and look at notes and stuff like that. And you just over time, you just pull things, that, and then I think coaching identity wise, I think it probably started maybe those first couple of years at Wakeland, when back in 2010, 2011, when you kind of figure out some things that work and then you start building on those. And I'm a different coach this year than I was 5 years ago. I'm a different coach this year than I was 2 years ago.
Sure.
And I just try and improve on things that we're doing. And every team's different too. Some teams you're going to have bangers. You don't need to bunt much. You don't need to run as much. Some teams, obviously you're going to bunt and run and do what you got to do to score. So I think you adapt to your team, but you do have kind of your core principles and everything, which for me is being a disruptor on offense, just finding different ways to score. So gosh, I know this, man. I think I've learned more from failing than I'd have from succeeding. So like as coaches, do you look back at anything up to this point in your career and say, I get it, you're here for a reason, but I wish I would have handled it differently. Is there anything that you feel like you learn from that you say, hey, you might want to be heads up on this young coaches coming up? Oh yeah. Every year, man. I go back in 2016, we're coming off 2015. We go to regional finals. We lost to Prosper, who ended up winning it. And, 16, we had a bunch of dudes coming back and come out, you're ranked second in the state or whatever it was. And, we had a team of bangers and I just assumed that we knew things, and
I got you.
I didn't start from zero, which every year you got to start at zero. You got to assume that they don't know anything. And whether you got an experienced team, a young team, whatever, if you got a young team, and it's easy, like you're going to cover everything. Sometimes with your experienced teams, with your older guys, you think that they, remember something you did the year before, but these guys are still 16, 17, 18 years old. So I learned a lot that year. We ended up getting bounced in the first round. And, I kind of look back and think, man, I let some things slide. And, at the end of every year, and one of these years, hopefully I'm going to win that last game, but every year, like we're on the bus ride back from whatever that last game is, I'm sitting there just typing in notes in my phone, and what I'm going to hammer on, when we get back in the fall, because it's right there fresh, like in my memory,
Talking with Barry Rose on the Baseball Forward podcast today. Barry Rose, my friend Barry Rose. I'll use different tags on you today, Barry. Baseball, like man, you were born to do it, but you're a leader, and I'm curious. Baseball, why? What was it about baseball that drew you in?
Man, I go back. So I was born in Irving, and then we moved to Coppell when I was, I think, 9 or so. But my dad was a police officer, and my mom was a school teacher. So real just normal people. But first thing I remember is kind of being in my older brother's games, and carrying around a baseball, and and then I start playing t-ball, and I don't know. I just always enjoyed, being around the game, watching the game, getting baseball cards, when you're like, I remember starting collecting baseball cards, I think when I was probably 11 or 12, and, getting into that. And, last name being Rose, my dad's family, is from West Virginia, and him and my uncles, the only team they could get on the radio was the Reds.
No way.
And, so that's I became a Reds fan, and of course it was easy being a Rose, and being able to root for them. But yeah, it's of course I liked all sports, still like watching all sports and everything, but baseball's always been the passion.
I love hearing that. And I want to get back to your boys right now. So it's got to be fun to watch them excel at this level. So talk to me more about that. I mean, do you, from their perspective as their dad, do you think that they have the realization right now that they're in the top 1%? Like this is a very minute, the funnel, it filters guys out year after year after year. And boy, these guys are still playing. Do you sense that they have a realization how special and how unique their careers are?
I think they probably do, but I think we also know, me being a coach, my wife being a former coach and a principal, I think we know how humble you have to be. That's and right. Knowing that there's going to be good days in this game, and I put those on Facebook, and then and I turn around the next day and there's a bad day, and the game will humble you. It'll punch you right in the mouth if you think you got it figured out. That's right. And I think they know that, and they don't talk about it. They don't talk about how where they're at and everything, and I'm proud of that, and I'm proud that they do it one day at a time, and they prepare that day like it's the last day.
Do they talk about signing autographs? Is it because hey, I was watching the LSU K-State game in Frisco a couple weeks, like maybe a month ago.
Yeah.
And watching all these college guys sign their autographs. And I just want to be like, hey, quit spelling out every letter, dude. Just like right. So right. Are they given autographs? Do they like, what would they say? And at some point I'll talk to both of them, but what would they say the coolest thing about what they're doing right now is?
I think like, both sign autographs, and I've got pictures of both of them doing it,
That's
which
legit.
Is cool as a parent, see your kid doing that. One of the deals on Mac. So Mac is a type 1 diabetic. Oh, yeah. And he has been, he got diagnosed when he was 8. And he's like, now he's been given a platform, for that. Wow. So he's starting to use that a little bit more. I have a former player from Wakeland he's still playing college baseball, but his mom reached out about a month ago, and she is an elementary teacher. She had a kid in her class that was diagnosed with type 1, big baseball fan. And she said, hey, can you get Mac to wow. Sign a ball or something? And, so we're getting that ball to that kid. And, that's cool, man, yeah. and if that can, help that kid out a little bit that's kind of going through some stuff right now with getting diagnosed with type 1, that can help him out, knowing that there's a guy that plays, at a power SEC school, then that's pretty cool. So
yeah, man, that is really cool. And boy, that would be just seeing your boys doing that. I'm picturing it for them. I want to talk about Barry, and hey, it's our show. I get to talk whatever I want. So I'm curious. I have an idea. To the audience out there listening to Barry Rose on the Baseball Forward podcast, let's talk about music for a little bit, man. If you were playing these days, if you were a player right now, give me like a flavor of what maybe your walk-up song would have been.
Man, I think maybe some AC/DC, you shook me all night long, or Back in Black or something like that, or, I mean, you could spin it maybe and go some LL Cool J or something like that.
Ooh,
Yeah.
LL Cool.
Yeah.
Hey, what did the boys come out to? What does Barrett come out to? Do you know?
Barrett's is usually he's got a couple rap songs, but he's got some stuff that's a little hard too. I don't know the name of the rap song. I've heard it enough, but I should know that.
Come on, Barry.
Yeah. Mac comes out to Return of the Mac.
Yes.
So he's come out to that. That's been on there since high school, and that's kind of too easy not to use.
I love it. Man. That's one of the fun parts about baseball. I remember talking with Coach Gary Ward, and Jim about I was in Stillwater like 2 months ago, and we were talking about walkout music. And hey, Jim, I know you're going to listen to this. Lighten up, listen to some music. if you're let the boys have walk-up music. It's part of the fun. But I will say this, Barry, I don't know if you get out to much youth baseball games at all, but what is happening at the youth level is insanity. Like, have you seen all the boom boxes out there? The walk.
Oh yeah,
I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, they were around when the boys were playing, which has been a while, and you just wouldn't see very many of them. But yeah, you'd have the boom boxes, and I mean, if it's an 8 a.m. game on a Sunday morning, that's okay. Like, bring that thing and put it in the dugout and like wake those dudes up.
Let's go.
But I don't know if we need walk-up songs like, for the little kids, but maybe just like pregame a little bit, just kind of get it going. But yeah, it's funny, man, all these years coaching, and there's certain, our players all have walk-up songs, and there's certain players, like when I hear a song,
wow.
It'll like, I'll think of a player,
dude,
like,
that's awesome.
That was their song. Yeah. I can think back to Sean McCracken that played for us at Wakeland in 2010 and 2011. And I hear a song and like,
what song was it? What was it?
Oh man. It was a rap song, and it was in The Hangover. You would know it.
Okay.
I can't think of the name, but like when I hear it, like if I'm watching The Hangover or something like that, and I hear it, I'm like, oh, that's McCracken's walk-up song.
Dude, see, walk-up music has connected our generations. This is soundtracks of our life, man. I mean, it's part of the baseball field. I mean,
and we play like, sorry to interrupt, but like we like practice every day. I go out before practice and I put the iPad up in the press box and I turn on, whatever. And I've got my different playlists that I'll play. Yep. Can't let the kids put their playlists on, they say it's clean. It's not clean, so I've got mine, I've got a country list, a BP list, a pregame list, a rap list, a 90s list, all that stuff. But I come out and I turn that stuff on, and it pretty much plays, throughout the whole practice, unless we really need to break something down. But, number one, it makes them talk, makes them communicate louder when the music's on. Number two, it keeps practice upbeat and keeps things moving, And so, in addition to walk-up songs, I think playing it in practice is good too.
Barry, I love that. And for me as a player, and then I think as coaching when I was at Parrish, like, it just makes the day feel better. Like, you move better, you hit fungos, the fielders have rhythm. It just seems like a more simple game when the music's on. So I advocate what you just said. Talking with Barry Rose on the Baseball Forward podcast. Barry, about 10 more minutes, 10 more minutes here, man. I again appreciate you, jumping on here today. As a coach, okay, so you have your coach hat on. there are a lot of parents out there that I think are well-meaning. And again, our goal is to help this younger generation coming up. But I think that they're well-meaning. But boy, sometimes parents can overstep their bounds. And I want to know what your advice for doing this as long as you have been, knock on wood, and not getting fired and all that. How do you handle parents? Like, what's your advice to coaches handling parents?
I think clear and concise expectations from the beginning. We'll do a quick fall Zoom parent meeting, but that's just kind of go over stuff. But then we do our big one is like the first week that we start practice in January. And it's just setting guidelines, setting expectations. It's funny. I'd heard this when I took the Rockwall job. How bad the parents were and all this stuff, and and yes, there's some things that I had to clean up, but again, like from the get-go, like you set the expectation. Yep. and you stick to it, and you just keep doing that. It's just like practice. It's just like the way you want your guys to play. You just have to set those expectations for parents, and communication is key. Just like anything in life, the more you can communicate on what you're doing, the more you can communicate on why you're doing it, and just give them information that it helps, and it cuts off a lot of stuff, when they don't know what you're doing.
That's right.
When you don't communicate with parents, if you don't communicate with players on your expectations of them, and like give them, like we sit down at the beginning of the fall. I sit down with each player before the season starts, let them know, yes, where they're at and everything, and you do that, and they, most of them, they go home and they tell mom and dad,
Yep.
Sometimes I'll get a phone call after that, and most of the time I'll respond, and every once in a while I won't respond, just because that's what I just told your son the day before. But communication, man, and just setting expectations, and I mean, hey, I want our parents to be involved. They do play a good role, a critical role in our program. Obviously, fundraising, helping on the field, working concessions, stuff like that. Like, you need them, to run a good high school baseball program. So I like to keep them involved, but also a little bit of distance,
Yeah. Yep. Okay. So let's go stay with parents here. As a dad of two boys that play college baseball, and one of them play professional baseball. What advice do you have for parents handling their up and coming players? Like, leave them alone, let them fail. Like, what advice do you have for the parents of the younger generation coming up?
First off, like when they're little, and little, I'm saying like before they get to high school, just throw BP to them all the time. If they like to hit, you need to be throwing to them, and you need to be taking them and hitting ground balls, and and just be with them on the field. I think back to it's not always like, it's not just about throwing BP too. Like I mean that I'm sitting there getting to be with my son, right, for 45 minutes and just talk about other stuff and relax and and everything. So those are big moments, and I think, as they get older, still, like I've got some dads that they come out and they throw to their kids like after practice and stuff like that. And I'm all for it, man. I'm all for it. But yeah, be some, the one thing I tell parents is like, be supportive, and I put up a deal on our parent PowerPoint. It's like a 5-to-1 ratio, hey, let's just say this: baseball is such a hard game mentally to play that, if you can say 5 positive things and mix in 1 negative thing, then you're doing it right, and we do need to tell them, like we do need to tell them if there's stuff that they need to clean up and there's stuff they need to work on. And, it can't just all be, everything's peachy and everything's great, Right. I mean, they need to hear sometimes that, hey, you need to run that ball out. You need to get on the field. You need to get your head up. You need to, stop doing that. but if you can tell them everything they're doing good too in between and enforce the positive too, and that's good. I think as parents too, sometimes we only see, we get tunnel vision, and I'm guilty of it now. I mean, with both my boys, we get tunnel vision. We focus like straight on our kid, well, hey, he should be playing because this is his on base percentage and he does this and this and this. Yeah, but you got to understand that coach has, there's 20 something other guys in that roster that are working hard too, and so you have to kind of keep that perspective as a parent as well.
That's really good, Barry. Talking with Barry Rose on the Baseball Forward podcast. I want to know if when the recruiting stuff started with your boys, I'm sure the college coaches, know who you are. A lot of them do. Were you involved in the recruiting process? Did you help the boys with, hey, be thinking about this, be heads up for that? What was your role, you and your wife's role in the recruiting process for both your boys?
A little bit different for each boy. From Barrett, it came a little bit later. We put together a recruiting video and sent out, but it came down to a couple college coaches that had seen him play in a tournament his junior year. And so he ended up signing like fall of his senior year with the JUCO. He played at Northern Oklahoma Tonkawa his first 2 years, JUCO in Oklahoma before he went to SFA. But they reach out and text them, and of course they reached out to me as well. But I really just left it up to Barrett, on making the decision. He had a couple schools that he got to choose between, and I said, it's your call, man. You do what you want to do. With Mac, it was a little bit earlier. I think it was like going into it was summer before his sophomore year. First time he threw 90 on the mound. He starts getting phone calls or texts. Or what I start getting texts, and then they start reaching out to him and everything. So. A little bit different process, but again, I don't know. I don't think it helped any that, and I think that's what, other parents sometimes think like, oh yeah, you've got more connections and that's why your kid gets to go here. That it still doesn't work out like that. Water finds its level, right? So
right.
they're going to end up where they're supposed to be. And, so it was Mac's decision with everything. And, he had some opportunities early, with some mid majors, and he just didn't feel like that was the right move for him. So that's why he chose to go to McLennan. And again, he didn't sign with McLennan until I think it was November of senior year, so that's what I tell parents a lot of times too. Like, look, just be patient, be patient. Let it happen. It's going to happen when it's supposed to happen. And it may not happen until spring of their senior year. I've got 5 guys right now that are going to play college baseball that haven't signed yet.
That's amazing.
They're talking to a lot of schools, and it's March. It's going to happen, and it's going to happen here in the next few months. And I just keep preaching patience and just go play every day, and put your best foot forward every day for the guys when they see you.
That's so valuable, because especially the day and age we live in now, recruiting is changed forever. It really is. And it's happening later. You shouldn't freak out. And I believe this for the parents out there, if your son truly loves the game, there's a place for him to play.
Absolutely.
So finish up with this. If I say there's a place for everyone to play, what kind of comes to your mind in terms of the recruiting process for the guys out there that are looking for some help or wanting to play college baseball?
Well, I would be proactive first, put together a recruiting video. And it doesn't have to be fancy. You don't have to pay tons of money. You can do it yourself. I mean, I'm on a coach's budget, so I did Barrett's myself,
Let's go.
You don't need any cheesy music in there. They just need to see their swings, need to see their swings, need to see them filling ground balls or throwing off a mound. But really being proactive, like, emailing is, any program that you're interested in, follow it up with a phone call, go to their camp,
Yes.
Go to their camp in the summer. and then be realistic about it. And then, not everybody's a Division I player. Not everybody's Division II player. There's different levels for a reason. And if you really want to play, there's a school out there where you can, just like you said, there's a school out there that you can go play at. And I would add this, like with Barrett, was at a JUCO, goes to Division I, now he's in Division II. The culture of the school he's at UMSL is great. And, and he's made in the 2 years he's been there, he's making lifelong friends.
Yes.
The coaching staff provides a great atmosphere. They care about the boys. And so anybody that like thumbs their nose up at a different level and says they're too good for that or whatever, man, I again, like, I know you've said it on here before, but like, I would encourage you to go out and watch a Division II baseball game between two quality Division II teams, or go watch a junior college game, go watch an NAIA game at different levels and watch these kids play. Because sometimes I think that our parents get caught up and go, oh, no, I'm not going to send them there. They're too good to go there. Man, you're not. And find a program that has great culture, that you like the school, and I guarantee you, like, it's gonna be good for you.
Something that resonated with me a long time ago, and I'll take it with me for anybody that I ever talked to about recruiting. They said, go somewhere where you can play. And what does that mean? Visualize this. If you're listening to this podcast with Barry Rose, if I go somewhere where you can play, so let's just say you pick up a school and you're not playing, what does that physically look like when you're walking around campus and you're not getting at bats? Do you feel if you're not playing, you're not going to feel good about yourself. The confidence goes down. You feel isolated. You don't feel like you're a part of something bigger. So it doesn't have to be Division I, doesn't have to be Division II, but go somewhere where you can play and feel like you're contributing, because that's where you're developing the confidence, the self-worth, the value add to the team. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. And other advice too, I would get, like, is, when schools reach out, they're interested in you, don't like, they're interested in you for a reason. That's good. Like, I think sometimes some of our kids will go, yeah, well, that's cool, but I kind of want to go to this place. Well, has that school reached out to you?
That's right.
No. Well, okay. Go somewhere where they are interested in you, and it'll work out. It'll work out better. Yeah,
that's right. I want to close it up with this, and I'll give you the last word. But there's two boys, two twin boys from Rockwall. Ryan Robertson. He and I are coaching my boys. Ryan Robertson's a head coach. I'm the assistant coach, kind of doing it the way you did it. But it's an 11U team, Frozen Ropes. Two Rockwall boys, a righty and a lefty. They're triplets, but they're the two boys play baseball. Righty and a lefty, studs.
Oh yeah.
Last name is Weaver. So I'm like, if B Rose is still around, hey, you're gonna like what you're seeing.
There you go.
Barry, hey man, I want to say this: love and respect, man. You are doing it the right way. You know how I feel about you. I am thankful that you jumped on here with us today. Give us a final sentiment for the day, and then we'll close up shop.
I guess if I'm just talking to players, just play as hard as you can every day, man. Play hard in practice. Play hard in games, get after it, because you don't know if that's going to be your last time on the field. Maybe it. So just get after it every day
and enjoy the game. I love it. Barry Rose, episode 51 of the Baseball Forward podcast. Thank you, my friend.
Thanks, Ross.
All right. See you, man.